is going to seem a little strange,
All
but I am
right.
going to do what's called a clap for the camera.
Oh, you are?
Yes. Ready? And so, thank you once again for participating in this. It means a lot to us. If we could please just start, if you could please tell us your name and where you live and any other personal information about yourself you may want to tell us.
My name's Sarah Knight Kenny, and I live at 219 Ty Street, Cabbagetown, Atlanta, GA. And I'm 81 years old, very blessed, and I have 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters, and a bunch of grandchildren. Now I have 6 grandsons and 1 granddaughter. Then I have 4 great-grandsons and 1 great-granddaughter. So boys run in our family. Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing family.
Yeah.
Y'all have done well.
Yeah.
Done well. So we mentioned a little bit that we are trying to put together a history of water
Yeah.
in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is not written down, just like so much of the history of the neighborhood.
Right.
So we've been asking some people who grew up here
Mm-hmm.
if they can remember any type of water sources or what life was like when they were growing up. How did you get your water? How did you did water in your house?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you don't mind, if you can remember anything about open water sources, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Well, really, as far as I can remember, we had the running water in the houses. Now, I understand before my time, they had outhouses around here, and they had wells. As a matter of fact, when I bought this house here, and we gutted it out, we built that room in there, the living room, onto this house. But before we did, they was out there cleaning the yards and everything. And this guy that was helping with the renovation, he said, "Did you know that there used to be a well right here?" Because he had sunk in. And I don't know how they do it, but they take these things and stick down in the ground. And this guy told him, said, "Yeah, there's been a well here." And I spoke up and told him, I said, "Well, I've lived here just about all my life." And I said, "I've always heard that all these houses had the outhouses and a well in the backyard." I said, "But that was before my time, you know. I've just heard my grandmother and my mother and her sisters, and they all lived here in Cabbagetown. And they would talk about well water and stuff like that." I said, "But I was born in 1937, and I can't remember if my mother said that when they moved up there on Ty Street, that there was already running water and inside bathrooms and all that. You know, they had come in and run water lines. But now, up on the other end of Ty Street, the next block, Short Street. Well, in the back of them houses up there, it always seemed like that the land curved down. It was like maybe a ditch run through there. Well, I was a nosy little girl when I was growing up, and I would ask my daddy and mother. I'd say, "Why is that yard back there like that?" Well, my dad, he said that there used to be a creek that run through Cabbagetown, and that he thought that that was part of where the creek was at. And then my aunt, she was there the day I was questioning him about the water. And she said, well, you know, there used to be a creek over there on the curb, a boulevard, where the Oakland Cemetery, and that curve that run around up to the mill. And she said, that was a real big creek that run down through there. And I couldn't believe it. I said, really? And she said, yes. She said, there was a creek. And she said, there wasn't no road there. It was a creek running that way, you know. And so I would ask different people, older people that lived in the neighborhood. I said, do y'all ever remember a creek being down there on Boulevard at the curb? And a lot of them would say, yeah, you know. Well, then I got interested in our backyard, you know. I'd say, well, what about over between Ty and Short Street? They'd say, yeah, there was a little creek that run through there. See, it wasn't very deep, but it was a creek of running water, you know. And then I'd start asking, I'd say, well, how'd they get rid of it? And then different ones, is this old man that run that store that I finally become owner of. His name was Mr. Winslet. And he said, well, that's when the city decided that they was going to put running water in all these houses. And they run pipelines and all through. And he said, that's how we finally got running water in the house. You got your faucets and in your bathroom. And I said, really? Well, then I couldn't wait to get back home to ask Mom and my daddy, you know. I said, Mr. Winslet told me a story about the creek behind our house. He said they done away with it, but they put pipes in there, and we started having this running water. And my daddy, he was from up in Demorage, Georgia, up North Georgia. He said, well, I don't know about all that. He said, now you might could ask your grandma. And said they've been here for years and years and years. Said she might know a little something about it. But I never did get a chance to ask Grandma about the backyard business. But she had also said there was a creek over on Boulevard, you know. That's all I know about the water situation.
And do you know what year, do you recall what year that was, or how old you were when you were asking?
When I was asking all these questions, I was about Eli's size, about 7 years old, you know. Hey, he's the same way about asking people questions and all. And that's what I'll tell Karen and him. I said, he's just like me. I remember how I'd go up and my mama, she'd get so mad at me. She'd say, Sarah, now they ain't got time to be answering all them questions for you. And then my daddy would speak up and he'd say, that's the honest way she's going to ever know anything is to ask questions. He said, don't get on to her. My daddy, he was on my side, you know. So I was one of them that wanted to ask all the questions and everything. Now my sister, I'm 4 years older than her, she was quiet now. She wasn't talkative back when we were growing up. But I was a talker and still am.
I'm sorry, his name was Mr. Winsley?
Winslet.
Winslet?
Winslet.
All right. And he owned the store on the corner?
Ty Street and Kirkwood.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did he run that store?
Well, let's see. I was 7 then. Well, before he had it, there was an old German Jew owned it, Mr. Bassett. Him and his son run it. I can just vaguely remember them. And then the old man died and the son didn't want part of the grocery store up there. And so Mr. Winslet, he come in and he bought it. And I think Mr. Winslet run it, let's say I was 7. I think when I was around 12 or 13, he decided He was tired of the store business. Well, my aunt, she bought the house that's connected to the store. And her brother, which was my uncle, he said, Audrey, you gonna open up a grocery store? And she said, why, no. She said, I got a good deal on this house. And said, we bought the house and the store building went with it. And he said, well, how about renting it to me? He said, I'm gonna open up a grocery store. Well, he opened it up. I think I was 12. Because when I got my teens, he'd let me after school come up there and wait on the kids and sack up penny candy and all to the kids. He'd give me a part-time job in that little store. Well, he owned it for, I think Uncle Wade was there about 15 years. Then he got tired of the store business. He wanted to go into the produce business, where back then guys would push carts with fresh vegetables and go. Well, he had a little pickup truck, so he was going to put his vegetables on the truck and ride through the neighborhood and sell produce to the people. And so this lady, her name was Ruth Kent. She come to Aunt Audrey and said, well, Mr. Thrasher says he's closing down at the end of the year. Said, would you rent me the building? Said, I'd like to open up a store. And Aunt Audrey said, well, yeah, I will. And so she lived up on top of Kirkwood up there. So she said, well, let me know when he gets his stuff out and all, and then we'll get together on the rent and all that, and I'm going to open up a store. Well, Miss Kent, she opened it up. Let's see, I guess it was right before I graduated from high school, I guess. It might have been a little after I graduated. I can just remember when I was married the first time, Stanley and Randy, if we was at Mama's house, they'd want nickel to run to the corner store. And she took sick, and so they had to the family closed the store down. Well, then I had met Karen's daddy, Vernon, and we got married. And he had a car wash down here on Memorial Drive, him and his cousin. And so they was running the car wash, and so I'd go down there and cashier sometimes when the girls that worked there, I'd work with them. Well, then we'd moved up here at 209 Time. And so Vernon went to my Aunt Audrey, and I didn't know what to start with. He said, Aunt Audrey, what you gonna do with the store building? The Kent says they're gonna move that stuff out. She said, yeah, I know it. He said, well, I want you to rent it to us. I'm gonna put my wife in business. He said, she's always talked about this little store. And he said, so I'm gonna make her dream come true. So in 1972, that's when I opened up the store up there, and I was there 32 years. Yeah, and I wouldn't close in. My ambition, I'd tell people, I'm gonna be here till I'm 75, or maybe longer if I'm able to run it. And I got sick, and my boys, they come in, my husband, he'd done died, and they said, Mama, you need to let us go on up there and clear out that store. You're not going to be able to go back to work up there. And I'd say, no, let's just close it down for a while. I believe I'm going to get better and I can go back to work. Well, I did get a little better, and I went back up there and I called my delivery man and was getting ready to restock it, and bless your soul, I got sick again. So Stanley, my oldest boy, he said, Mama, there ain't no sense in, said somebody else could come in there and open up a little store. I said, well, okay. So we closed it down, and I said, I hate it, because I done told people I was going to be here like 75, and I was in my early 60s when it happened, 62, I think. And he said, well, somebody else will. But nobody never did come in. And then my aunt, she passed away. And I was executive over her estate. And her granddaughter, and her 3 kids lived in there in that house. And she said, I want you to take care of Sherry. She was a slow learner. I mean, I ain't gonna say she was retarded or anything like that. She wasn't, but she's slow. And anyway, I started telling Sherry, I said, Sherry, we'll have to have some work done on this house. I said, you know, they've started coming through here wanting people to fix their houses up. And I said, you on a fixed income? And well, one of her sons worked and helped her with the bills. And I said, what do you think we ought to do? And so her oldest son, he said, maybe we ought to just sell. And so I said, well, okay. I said, well, let's see if we can find a buyer for it, you know. And so they moved out, and we finally sold it. And then she regretted moving from Cabbagetown. They live out in Villarica now. So. But, I mean, it was the best thing. I mean, a lot of people say, that don't even look like the same place. So, you know, they built the Sweet Chick down on that end, and then there's some buildings facing Ty Street. Well, you know what it looks like now up there. See, when I was there, it was just a store and the house connected. And then that was an open field because the little church, black people have it down there. They one time tried to buy that lot from Main Order for a parking lot. And she said, you don't have to buy it. Y'all can park over on that lot every Sunday. She said, free. Said, you know. So as long as she was alive, she let them members park their cars over in that lot and all. And that's what that preacher said down there when she passed away. I said, well, I believe her granddaughter will let y'all park down there and all, you know. And then he passed away, that preacher down there. Then I never did really get acquainted with the next preacher that was down there. So 2 or 3 times we heard they was going to sell that church up because of parking, you know. But they're still there.
I found a picture of your store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I can.
It was really run down there. Now my husband, when he was alive, he kept it painted and fixed, and he'd have an order's house painted too, you know, so to match the store and all. And then there at the last, well, it was so old. I guess that building was 100 years old, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Sure was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's after I moved out from there. Yeah.
And what would you all sell there when you were running it?
Well, I sold just about everything. I mean, we sold dairy products, and then we sold packaged meats and all. You know, to start with, the first year I was there, we had this meat man that come and we sold fresh meats. On Tuesday, he'd take our order of what we wanted, like pork chops and chickens and steak and stuff like that. And we sold that, and but then it got a big problem. I told my husband, I said, that's too much trouble. I said, some of the blacks that come in there, they'd want 1 slice of bologna and 1 hot dog, you know, just one of each of stuff. And it was aggravating, so I done away with the fresh meat. I said, we'll have packaged meat. And then we had produce, you know, different times. And sold a lot of candy and junk food, you know. That school building was right across the street from the store, you know, and after school, they'd all come over in the store. That kids really liked because I kept in stock a lot of penny candy and penny bubble gum. And one year, Channel 5 said, does anybody know where you can still get penny bubble gum? And somebody called in, and one day a reporter come out there, and he said, I'm from Channel 5. And I said, well, what are you doing here? And he said, well, we heard this store still sells penny bubble gum. I said, I do. And I took him in and showed him the boxes of her with the penny bubble gum in it. I said, we even have penny candy. And I had these little bitty brown sacks, you know, because I run into a boy at the funeral home last week, and he told his wife, he said, this is the lady I told you about. I'd go to her store. He said, you could take a quarter down there and get a bag that big full of penny candy. And she said, I thought he was joking all along about that. I said, no, honey, I sold penny candy to the kids. Yeah.
What was it like competing with Leon? And
Well, you know, really, I had this little joke with Leon. Leon and I are real good friends. And I tell Leon, I said, you know, I live on the good side of Cabbagetown. I said, y'all over there, y'all the bad side. And he'd say, oh, Sarah, why you say that? I said, well, we always hear a little feuds and fusses going on down on Carroll Street. I said, you never hear that over here on Ty Street. I said, it might be because we got the schoolhouse over here in front of us. And he'd laugh about it. And then the police officers back then, they really patrolled this area, you know. Well, I'd always get acquainted with the one that was on duty, you know. And this guy, he was from up north. And his name was Bob. I can't even say it now. How was his last name pronounced? Blavel or something. He's from New York, because I kidded him all the time about that. I'd say, all y'all Yankees, and I'd say, all y'all damn Yankees come to the South to get this Southern hospitality. And he'd just laugh, and he said, I just love your accent. And I said, do I sound all that country? And he'd say, well, I just don't know how to describe it. And if he ever had to train anybody, he adopted me as his Southern mom. And every chance he'd get, he'd come by the store, you know. And then that's what Leon would throw back at me. He'd say, reason why y'all so good, you have a police car sitting outside in front of your store a good bit. And I said, you ain't supposed to know that.
you had protection.
Yeah. Well, in fact, some of the people from Reynoldstown, they thought he was my stepson. Because they'd come in and say, Miss Sarah. I'd say, yeah. I didn't know you had a stepson on the police force. I'd say, yeah.
Maybe just one or two last questions. Please.
Okay.
Did anyone in your family work in the mill?
Well, some of my aunts and uncles did. But my mom, she never worked in the mill. My dad, he was in construction, he done construction work, and I don't know if y'all remember the WPA. Yeah, all right. He worked in the WPA and was a supervisor on one of them crews. And he always said he felt like the wife should be the homemaker and, you know, raise the children. And he wouldn't let her work because her sisters, they all worked over on the mill, except one, the younger sister. But they'd say, Baller, you got a good man sitting, don't make you work in the mill. But, yeah, let's see, I had Aunt Alice, Aunt Sally, and I know her worked for a while and she got out of the mill. So 3 of my mama's sisters worked, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 of her brothers worked over in the mill. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did any of them talk about a river or anything that may have been flowing under the mill? Like
No, I never did hear that.
Okay. So did anybody work maybe in the boiler room, the boiler house?
Tell you the truth now, I don't know what parts I worked in, because for a long time I didn't know, And then, you know, that bleacher part, it was the last thing that was built on that mill. And that's what I'd say to the people at work. I say, why are they building more to the mill? And they'd say, oh, that's the bleacher part. And I said, what's that? You know, and they would try to explain to me what they done in that last building they built down there. Yeah. Now, I remember the clinic. They had a clinic right down from the mill. And then they had a nursery. Because my friend Hazel, she went to that clinic. And I'd go down there and they had a dentist down there, dentist's office. And then the doctor. And then my second husband, his cousin, she was secretary over in the mill clinic. And every time Hazel had to go down there, I'd go with her. I was a nosy child. I wanted to go down there and see what was going on and all, you know. And then they had, then one day we asked, I was trying to think that lady's name that run the daycare center. She finally let me and Hazel go in there and look around and all. And then they had what they called, I don't know what it'd be like an outlet store, but they'd sell material and all over there. And my mama sewed, and then Hazel's mama sewed. And certain days they'd let the people in the community go over there and buy some of that material, you know, they made. Yeah.
Well, I kind of lied. I am going to ask one question. It's just because you're here. This is wonderful to hear these stories. And you mentioned her name a little earlier, Betty Taylor.
Yeah.
Like, we've been wanting to hear more about Betty and Savannah Street Mission, and we haven't had a chance to really talk to anybody yet
Yeah.
who knew her well.
Yeah. Who, Betty Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a nice lady. Yeah, she helped out down there with the girls' club, and then she would feed the hungry. You know, she'd cook lunch down there in the girls' club building. And she lived up there, like when you go up Kirkwood, short streets to Wiley, but then there's a little house, it sits right down, I call it down there in the whole light. That's Short Street too, and she lived in that one house, her and her children. And they traded with me at the store, and when she'd get through down there, she'd stop and store. But before she done all that, she worked over there at, years ago in, I guess you'd say Inman Park, where they made the Blue Horse notebook paper. Well, I can't remember the name of that company. But they made school supplies and all. She worked over there till she retired. And then when she moved here in Cabbagetown, she said, you know, I'm not happy. I wish I hadn't retired. She said, I'm going to find me something to do in this neighborhood. And then the next thing I knew, she's down there at the girls' club helping out. And one day she come in, she said, I can't think that lady that she worked with. But anyway, they come up with the idea of cooking a meal and serving to the homeless each day. And she done that. And she was a real good lady. I really did love her. Yeah.
What year would that have been?
Let's see, let me think a minute. It had to be been in the early 60s when she done that. And then the mission up on Savannah Street, the lady that founded it, they called her Sister Keel. And, you know, the mill give her that land up there where that mission's at. And I don't know how in the world the United Methodist Ladies Club got the deeds to that, you know, because Sister Keel, like I said, the Fulton Bank mill give her that land. And to start off with, didn't even have a building. She just meet up on that lot with kids and everything. then finally she went around to different sources and got donations and all, and finally built that mission. And then the lady that run it when I started going over there was Henrietta House, and that's when I learned to quilt. Every morning she'd open up about 10, and she's open from 10 to 2 every day. She cooked lunch for us, and we done crafts and done quilting and different things like that, over there. And I really enjoyed it. And I hated it when they finally, I really don't know why they said they was closing it. I just know that Henrietta made the announcement to us that, well, we're going to have to be closing down soon. And we said, why? And she said, well, the ladies from that United Methodist called me and said that they was going to close it down, And so next thing we know, they come out for a meeting, and we begged them, don't close this down. So there was a good many seniors, going over there, and there was some young people that would come over there. And the days that we didn't quilt or do craft, we'd sit around and play cards and things, And they said, well, we just got to. Said one lady, she's a little black lady, she said, well, I voted that we should try to keep it. She said, but all the rest was for going on closing it down. And she said, I don't know what. I said, well, y'all gonna sell it? And she said, well, I really don't know yet. But then later, Kara met that first guy that went over. His last name was Willis. He was from North Carolina and come down. And he went up there and seen them women. And they leased it to him if he would get it fixed up, because nobody working in there and all. It started crumbling down, and all, and windows getting broken. So this Mr. Willis, he went in and got some help and redone it and put a new roof on it and everything, because when they had open house, me and Carol went over to it, and they'd done a lot of work. But I don't know how long Mr. Willis stayed over there, but then when he left, another group come in, and that's what Karen was telling me. He said, Mama, you need to go over again. Said, this second group of people, they have really done a good job on fixing the inside of it and all, and they have service over there. And then Karen was telling me one of them guys said that they, every Wednesday, they cook lunch for the homeless or anybody that wants to go over and eat lunch, So, I don't know the situation on that, but I hated it because after it closed down, that's what I told Karen. I said, she was working at that time, and I said, I don't know if I can stand staying here in the house and not getting out, seeing people and talking. She said, you'll get used to it.
What year was it that the mission closed?
Let's see. Oh gosh, I'd have to ask Carol. I'm not really sure. Carol, when did mission close?
2011.
2011. Yeah, because that's year Eli.
was born.
Yeah.
Well, just 1 second. Are the boys coming at 1? Have you heard anything from them?
They're 12:30 or 1, so.
We may have to wrap this up.
Oh, okay.
But that doesn't mean we won't be
Had-
back. I know.
I talk your head off.
More than Barbara
I
Walters.
love it. And here you were. I don't want to be on camera. Yeah, whatever. All right. Well, here, let me just go ahead and.
Yeah, because who was it I was telling that?